Hello, welcome to Commissioner's Corner. I'm Commissioner Charlotte Garrido from the south end of the county, and we're here in Harper today. We talked to you, Sue Donahue and I talked to you in 2013, late 2013, about some work that was going to be happening at the Harper Estuary. And today I'm back with a couple of folks from the Department of Community Development. We have Jim Bolger, who's the manager of the Planning and Environmental Programs, and Kathy Peters is the Natural Resources Coordinator. We wanted to tell you a little bit more about Harper Estuary, but first of all, we all know that we live in an absolutely beautiful community, and our environment, our habitat is spectacular, and we have a unique ecosystem of great things that we're probably going to talk about even today. And our water life also gives us lots of recreational opportunities. Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about the setting that we're in today?
Sure. So as you said, Commissioner, we're really fortunate in this county to have all kinds of areas that are still in really natural, kind of relatively pristine conditions. And those areas, there's been a lot of work, as you say, on protection. The county has acquired areas for parks and really trying to make sure that we don't have to come back and restore things later. There's also a number of places around the county, and this is Harper Estuary is a perfect example that kind of illustrates this broader work that we do, where it's really not things that have happened in the recent, currently today. Most of our laws and rules kind of protect us, our environment from damage. It's those areas from the past that we're trying to go in and restore. It's what humans have done over time. And Harper down here in the south, Curly Creek is another good example where we've opened up that estuary with a new bridge. Carpenter Creek up north in the Kingston area. These are all active places where the county is putting a lot of effort and time, not just with ourselves, but with a lot of community partners. The citizens themselves, other groups, the tribes in the areas have been really key in us being able to do some of this work. Kathy has really been an important person for this project, as you know, in that she can really probably give you the real details on this particular site and the work that we're doing here. Kathy, do you want to tell us a little bit about Harper?
Sure. So where we are here in the central basin of Puget Sound in South Kitsap County was a historic, small, what's called pocket estuary. And the first people who lived here were the Suquamish people. They're called the people of the water, and they found places like this where they could harvest clams and fish. The next settlers were the timber barons, who found the large trees along the shoreline easy to harvest and relatively easy to transport to mills for processing. And then the citizens that were living here discovered a repository of natural clay back behind us on the other side of the ballpark. And they initiated a clay or brick factory. The Harper Brick Factory was in operation for several decades, and bricks were manufactured here, carried down from the brick plant on a road that was constructed out to barges to be taken into Seattle, Port Orchard, Olympia. We think the Olympia mansion was probably the governor's mansion built out of Harper bricks. And then the brick factory closed, and the folks just pushed the brick factory into the water, abandoned the old roads that were necessary for delivering those bricks, and the county put in Olympiad Drive. And so we still have, as you can see behind me, relatively intact and functioning it's what's called a pocket estuary. And what the phase one of this work at Harper was to remove the old remnant road with our partner, Department of Fish and Wildlife and Department of Ecology and the Suquamish tribe. We've been working on collective plans with the community to how to restore this pocket estuary. The first phase of the restoration is nearly complete, with the road and the relic other materials along the shoreline have been removed. There was a really small fish passage barrier culvert, a 36-inch culvert that was replaced with a 20-foot culvert on Southwest Drive.
We need to show a picture of that.
Yes, and the next phase will be to build a bridge across this estuary and allow the water to go freely back and forth across.
So Kathy, you mentioned a pocket estuary. What makes that important to be restored?
So pocket estuary is a term that basically just describes a smaller area where freshwater and marine water and the terrestrial and marine ecosystems come together. It's called an ecotone. And those are really important transitionary places for all kinds of fish and wildlife. For salmon to come and find refuge from predators and to find small insects to feed as they're growing. For birds to come in and rest and hide and feed during the winter. And for all kinds of other terrestrial animals that rely on both of those species. The pocket estuaries in the shoreline of Puget Sound used to be very in and outy. And
In and outy.
and large estuaries such as the mouth of the Duwamish in Seattle and the mouth of the Snohomish in Everett have been compromised. So these little smaller estuaries collectively add up to a lot of available habitat for species, and recent science has really taught us how underappreciated these were, and the salt marshes that are adjacent to them are extremely productive parts of our ecosystem in Puget Sound.
These areas are where many of our commercial species, like crab, for example, they'll come into estuaries as larvae, and this is where, you know, they grow up and then before they move out into the more of the open water. So they're really important not only for the animals and the ecosystem itself, but for our own enjoyment and our access. And so that's been another aspect of this project that I think is really exciting and something we try and build into these restoration projects, whether it's viewing platforms or access to the beach and those kinds of things.
Sure, and we use the term ecosystem because it is a complete system. And as you were admiring just a few minutes ago before we started, that you had seen a loon, which is fairly rare here, but we do have a broad array of habitat that is established already here. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about the work that is actually being done here?
So there's a couple of phases. I'll let Kathy give you the details on those, but we're at a place in time right now where we're just kind of wrapping up phase 1's worth of work, and phase 2, we're still looking at doing the final designs for that work, but it's expected to happen next summer. We'll show folks pictures of what's being done here, but Kathy, if you wanted to describe the extent of phase 1 and phase 2.
So as I said a little bit earlier about removing the remnant brick piles and the remnant roads, that is a large part of the work. I don't remember exactly how many cubic yards were hauled out of here, but at one point all of the material was being hauled overnight down to Oregon. Some of the material was contaminated with basically structures. The contaminants were associated with the building when they pushed it in. We're in the plume of the Asarco smelter plant in Tacoma, so there was some arsenic. And as you would expect with degradation of wood and other debris over time, there just were some low-level chemicals. So the place has been cleaned up. It will be easier for folks to feel comfortable about, you know, swimming and that sort of thing. The culvert was replaced, and there was an artificial boat landing area that had been created over the years, and all of that fill material was gone. So in the course of doing this restoration, we realized that we've necessarily so removed a very important recreational opportunity for the locals. This is a secret, great place to come and get to the beach and launch your boat. So the next phase will be to design and provide shoreline access to the beach, and for people and for their small vessels. And then we will be putting in a 120-foot span bridge that will be 8 feet above the water level, so people can go in and out with a kayak or swim in and out through there. And then we'll be continuing to work with the community to see what other amenities they desire. We've had really wonderful participation from the community to give us input on how the best to do this project.
Indeed we have, but I have to go back to one comment you made about this is a secret recreation place. I don't think there's anything secret about it. People really love the Harper Estuary, and with vistas like we have here today, whether it's inland or outward toward Puget Sound, it's really fabulous.
I think that's been one of the neat things about these projects around the county, is that we've taken these places that locals knew about and made them safer and healthier for those folks who are using them most readily, but it also provides an opportunity for all of us. I've been to the ones up in Kingston, and I've been to the ones in, on Chico Creek, just to see the salmon running up there, and I think it's an amenity that everybody has access to now.
Well, and we have been very aggressive about trying to restore as much as possible, so that we are committing time, assets and resources, financial and otherwise, to actually obtain the restoration, but also to update the plans and the documents that we live by, that guide us on a daily and an annual and an ongoing basis. So we've asked the citizens to participate with that, but truly we have really committed to making a difference. So how healthy is Puget Sound given a change like this? What will this contribute?
Well, so it's hard to measure one project in and of itself, although we are doing monitoring at sites, and there are opportunities for citizens to get involved in some of these monitoring projects. We can talk a little bit more about that. But overall, this is one piece of the puzzle to try and restore the health of Puget Sound. And right now the signs are really mixed. We see some signs of improvement over the years and all the partners and the work that's gone into Puget Sound recovery. A lot of those improvements we see in things like water quality and habitat, but there's still some real troubling signs, and those are the things that are related to kind of individual species. And so it's one of those things where I think Bill Ruckelshaus one time said, it's everlastingly work. It's not something that we're ever going to be able to say, okay, we're done, let's move on to the next problem that we face as society. So we still, with the influx of people coming in, we're still seeing some decline, probably at a faster rate than we can actually recover the system, but the trajectory has slowed. So the work that we're doing is helping, and as I said before, there are positive signs, and the species and the food web type indicators that we look to, those may take decades to respond after we make their habitats healthy again.
But this helps us understand even better the steps to take.
Oh, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So actually we have involved the local community, the Harper community, throughout this entire process, even back in the planning stages, and we meet with them on a regular basis to update and to learn what people in the community think about this and what their preferences are. That's a very important part of the restoration, because they're understanding what we are doing on behalf of folks in the community, and actually this contributes to our own economic quality of life and the value of our quality of life in Kitsap County. So people are watching this, and they would also like to know how they could be involved. What sorts of things could they be doing? Or to get involved?
I mean, in general, as I mentioned before, there are opportunities for citizens to get involved in monitoring and even some restoration work. We have the Washington State University Extension Program and the Washington Sea Grant Program offer opportunities for citizens to get involved in projects. Kathy, maybe you can talk to the specifics there. The county also offers opportunities for citizens to do restoration on their own property. So we have, in some cases, small grants that we can make available to people. We can provide you with some of the technical assistance and even help with the necessary permitting.
Sure, and the Conservation District helps
the
with rain
Conservation
gardens
District as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the specific citizen involvement we have with some of the other restoration projects going on?
Well, the Washington State Extension has both beach naturalists and shore stewards, and the beach naturalists being led by Washington Sea Grant, another university, have been implementing and following specific monitoring of these restoration projects. So citizens can apply for backyard habitat grants through the Conservation District. There's a stream stewards class that's starting very soon, like within the next week or two, that's taught up in Paulsbo by the Washington State Extension. And through those volunteer training programs, you can find out how to adopt a site and monitor. There are volunteer groups associated with many of the county parks that do all kinds of work.
People who live near the parks love them the most, and that's a really welcome contribution from the community and to the community.
If I could just add, one of the
Yes, of
things
course.
that, the monitoring is so important with these projects, and it's great to have citizens involved in that, because that's really how we determine whether we're being successful or not. So that's really an important thing. It's not just an activity to keep people busy, but that's information that we can use to make sure we're doing the right types of projects in the right locations. And we're really trying to use that, as well as trying to have multiple benefits from these projects, not just for the environment, but for people and opportunities in the community.
And just plain on the website, on our website and on other community websites, there is information available.
Yeah.
One easy thing that folks who live near here can also do is take photos. The changes that have occurred over the last couple of years are incredible, and the changes that will continue to occur is something that they can see on a regular basis, daily and several times a day, if they'd care to. So that's really valuable documentation as well.
Well, I think the salt marsh that's been opened up is really going to be interesting to watch, especially as we go through the seasons and sand gets shifted around. A lot of times we don't realize how dynamic these environments are. But we really, by taking out a lot of that artificial fill and hardening that's been done over the years, we're going to see this area shift around, and that's going to be really interesting, and that photo documentation is going to be really, really important.
And I understand that there are actually fish back here that we have documented on film as well, and they have returned quite quickly.
One of the things that we have seen, like in the restoration community, is as soon as you open up an intertidal culvert, the fish find it. They may not be spawning in that little stream, but they find it as a refuge for food, and these small streams that we have all over Kitsap are far more productive and important for salmon and the species that rely on them than we previously thought, because they use it as a rearing when they don't have that opportunity near their natal river. If you come out of the Duwamish, it's way more hospitable over here to come to a pocket estuary in Harper and feed and grow for a few months before you head out. And one more thing I'd like to say about what citizens can do. If you can't volunteer or do habitat restoration, you can drive a car that has its oil leaks fixed. You can take your car to a car wash. You can, be considerate about using pesticides or herbicides near water. So, just had to say that.
I think that's great, thank you. So what's on the to-do list to improve the quality of our health and our environment for habitat for people?
Well, one of the things that Kathy mentioned, and you mentioned before as well, is that we have these plans. We are developing plans that are not only specific to Kitsap County, but we try and integrate those with other counties' work or other geographic areas' work so that it fits in, it's contributing to the big picture. In those projects or those plans, we identify, what are the major issues we need to be addressing, what are the specific places those issues are found. And so we've developed some new plans that will be regularly updated, and those help us to identify the kinds of projects, the right people to do those projects into the future. And then we take those projects and collectively agree this is the most important work to do, and we try and promote those for funding and other sources of support. Did you?
I think you've summarized it very well, but I wanted to just tie back in the monitoring, because we have a plan and we think, well, if we do actions A, B, C, the result will be D, E, F. And the monitoring allows us to see if our plan actually came to fruition, and then we can readjust and go back and adaptively manage those plans. And that's kind of bureaucratic speak, but it's real. You need to be able to go back in and say, we think this habitat's going to improve if we put in a bridge. Did it improve? And then go on and repeat those lessons learned as we move around the county.
So I'm not sure I see that entirely as bureaucratic. I think it's thorough, and I think it helps us observe a change that's happening, and that can be us as government, it can be all the citizens who live around it in our own ways. So it's good.
Well, there's real examples of that. I mean, back in the 70s, you were advised to take wood out of streams because that was obstructing fish from moving through those streams. And when we did that, we saw the beginning of the decline of a lot of fish species in those streams, and we learned that it was those trees and the diversity of habitat and structure that really was what was supporting that ecosystem. And so now it's become a common practice that having that structure and that wood back in the streams and along our shorelines is an important component to the healthy ecosystem.
So it's been wonderful to watch the folks who live here and who live beyond here. I come out sometimes just to look, and people from out of the area are looking at the vista, but they're also observing the changes that are happening here. So it is a learning process for all of us, and especially those fish that are looking for something to eat.
Yes. Well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say the fish hug the shoreline, and they know that it provides some shade and protection from the big fish, and provides them. They even eat terrestrial insects.
Really?
So they come along the shoreline looking for leaves and bugs that are falling off, and it's really great that we can increase that amount of habitat. Literally increase that amount of habitat for them.
And I think even behind us, here's some of the vegetation that's been planted as part of this restoration work. So as this grows up, and it will provide shade and a source for those terrestrial food bits that fish using this estuary, and the birds as well, will take advantage of.
Well, I look forward to returning
Yeah.
often to see what changes happen. And I want to say thank you to both of you, Jim and Kathy, for
you're
being here
welcome.
today and sharing with us the wisdom that you have about natural resources. It's really valuable. It's been very, very interesting. And I want to thank you for being here today as well. Again, Kitsap is a really beautiful place, and we're so lucky to be here, to live on a peninsula that is nearly surrounded by water, and that contributes to freshwater health as well as to our natural Puget Sound. Our clean environment means a prosperous economy. It also means a quality of life for every one of us and for the habitat that we are helping to support. A second thing I want you to remember from today is that we are easy to contact. We'd love to hear from you. We have a lot of information, and so do you. So if we can be having conversations about our natural setting and how we can all work together to improve it, good for all of us. And thirdly, Kitsap County government is really, really aggressively working to restore as much of our environment as we can, as this estuary testament is a testament to. But we work not alone. We work in partnership with community members, with the citizens of Kitsap County. We work with other governments. We work with the tribes and other agencies. I think that, but the communities are really essential because you are the ones who know the community in a different way on a daily basis than we do. So thanks for being here. Come out and take a look at Harper, and see you soon.